Okay, so today we're going to look at a question from the University of London International Programme, Chapter 4, Consumer Choice. This question will be relevant to anybody studying a first year of economics module at any good university in the UK or around the world. So the question reads, the slope of the demand for an inferior good is steeper than that of a normal good because. Well, firstly, let's draw the scenario that we have. So if we draw two demand curves, one representing an inferior good and one representing a normal good. So we're told that the inferior good has to have a steeper slope than the normal good. So that's represented on this diagram. If we assume we start at this price where they're the same, call that Q1, P1, then this is the demand for the inferior, this is the demand for the normal. Now let's decrease the price by the same amount, and we see that the inferior good increases in quantity demanded by a lot less than the normal good. And then remember that this change from Q1 to Q2 and from Q1 to Q3 is what we call the overall effect. So Q1 minus Q3, sorry, Q3 minus Q1 is the overall effect for the normal good, and Q2 minus Q1 is the overall effect for the inferior. So basically, the inferior has a smaller overall effect than the normal good, given a price decrease. So then from our reading, we should know that the overall effect is the substitution effect. Just make that neater. Is the substitution effect plus the income effect. So the substitution effect will always encourage us to consume more of the relatively cheaper product. The income effect looks at how a change in price causes a change in our real income, which affects our consumption behavior. For the overall effect to be smaller, clearly it would be smaller if this were some positive number and this were some negative number, or this was a negative and this was a positive, because can you see that the effects would cancel each other out and make the overall effect smaller? Whereas if this was positive and this was positive, then the overall effect would be a lot bigger. So essentially, for the inferior good to have a smaller overall effect, it means that when the substitution effect is positive, the income effect is negative, and vice versa. So the correct answer to this question is D. Next, Judith spends all her money buying wine and cheese and wants to maximize her utility from consuming these two goods. The marginal utility of a bottle of wine is 60, MU wine 60. The marginal utility from a block of cheese is 30. The price of wine is 3, and the price of cheese is 2. Judith is buying wine and cheese in the utility maximizing amounts. Well, from our reading, we know that utility max condition is that MU wine over price wine must equal MUC, marginal utility of cheese, over the price of cheese. When we sub in these numbers, we get 60 over 3 and 30 over 2. So this is actually 20 and this is actually 15. So these are not the same. So this condition is not satisfied. So therefore, Judith is not maximizing utility. So let's think about the significance of this. What this is telling you is that for every pound spent on wine, you get 20 utils of happiness. And for every pound spent on cheese, you get 15 utils of happiness. So if you want to make yourself happier, you should be spending more money on wine and less money on cheese, because every pound you spend on wine is giving you more utils, so it's making you more happy. So the answer would be B, should buy more wine and less cheese. Okay, so I hope this video was helpful, and if you're struggling with any of the underlying ideas or themes, such as utility maximization, or the income and substitution effect, or even just the difference between normal and inferior goods, then I suggest you watch some of the more explanatory videos